We're about serving homeless people, and it's a very fundamental service, a safety net service that we provide for the community. I think people don't realize, just how much a meal means to people. And this year, the grant is going to be funding our meal program. You can't really speak to anybody when they have an empty stomach.
What does homeless mean to you? I'll give you a moment to think about that. But in my opinion, someone experiencing homelessness is a human being without a home. And I must preface, a human being. And while I'm aware that is the definition, I want to make note of a harmful stereotype portrayed by mass media that dehumanizes them and paints a picture to tell an overwhelming notion they're out there because they're all criminals or mentally ill or drug addicts. But this becomes a problem, especially when you consider public fear of homeless individuals. It can slow down efforts to help those needing a home, and often perpetuates further stereotypes or harmful behavior. Through a thematic research approach, the CSL organization that I chose to volunteer at was the Institute of Human Services. This organization started as a peanut butter ministry in 1978, where 30 volunteers manned a storefront 14 hours a day from 8 to 10 p.m., offering an assortment of food from peanut butter, jelly sandwiches, to coffee, and providing temporary shelter, alcoholism education and support, and realistic, adaptive, positive counseling.
So you'd invite them in and have a conversation, and that's really what seeded our mission to really end and prevent homelessness in Hawaii, and really developed our niche in our community as the oldest, largest, and most comprehensive.
This research project analyzed homelessness trends, community resilience, and volunteer efforts with an emphasis on the impact of the pandemic. The project anticipated a comprehensive insight into the complexities of homelessness in Hawaii and aimed to provide recommendations for improving crisis response and providing valuable support to vulnerable groups. I chose to look at homelessness, especially in Oahu, because homelessness in Hawaii during the 20th and 21st century has increased rapidly from the influx of people the government displaced from the mainland to Hawaii, and Native Hawaiians losing their homes to increased rent costs. When taking the view of COVID-19 into account, along with volunteerism rates, it becomes apparent that COVID-19 greatly impacted services, causing many individuals to fall under the absolute poverty line. In Hawaii, the Department of Human Services has incorporated the Housing First approach to the housing crisis by implementing state-funded homelessness programs.
IHS receives probably about, on average, 100 to 150 phone calls or email inquiries every year from people who are actually looking to be homeless here in Hawaii.
He says the organization discourages them from coming and tries to educate them about the realities of paradise. But some don't realize it until they get here.
The dual impact of the pandemic and the housing disparities on the homeless population creates a multifaceted and complex level of analysis. One, which highlights the vulnerability of the homeless population and the underclass population, and the systemic issues that arise from Hawaii's uneconomical housing. While Hawaii is not the only place that has housing disparities, it's very common in Hawaii because of its limited land availability, high demand, and the tourism industry that focuses on creating a romantic view that drives individuals from the mainland to want to move here. The pandemic only exacerbated this situation because of it has higher rates of unemployment and the collapse of the tourism. Taking a meso-level approach, disasters like COVID-19 highlight social system inequality, especially around fundamental human rights such as food, safety, housing. Through community, creativity, resilience, programs like the Institute of Human Services seek to feed people experiencing homelessness. At a rate of 1 in 5 families in Hawaii utilize the food pantry to get groceries. This rate only increases for Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders, with a rate of 2 out of 5 families. When going more closely to Hawaii, especially Oahu, let's take a micro level of analysis. Taking a micro approach to this issue, community organizations need to create many ways to provide services during the pandemic, from implementing emergency structures to food distribution programs and providing basic needs through the distribution of PPE. Looking from a functionalist perspective, society is viewed as a system that needs stability and equilibrium. Homelessness challenges this equilibrium, as the housing system is a fundamental societal institution, and housing is closely linked to having social stability, a strong social network, social mobility, and just general well-being. By there being a large population of homeless people in Hawaii, it indicates a breakdown of basic human needs. However, volunteers at the Institute of Human Services are adopting and devising innovative structures or strategies to restore peace within the homelessness population while mitigating the negative consequences of homelessness in society. From the conflict perspective, the pandemic reveals the underlying power dynamics, inequalities, and systematic issues contributing to the homelessness population. When exacerbated by the pandemic, homelessness in Hawaii shows the consequences of structural and economic inequality of its people. Because the history of westernization, Hawaii prioritized the tourism-based industries over the welfare of its citizens. These factors perpetuate homelessness and raise conflict between marginalized groups and those with power. From an interactionist perspective, the pandemic shows that homeless individuals have unique stories to shape their experiences and perceptions of homelessness. The stigma around homeless individuals emphasizes how society treats homelessness. Instead of perpetuating a harmful stereotype, contribute to creating symbolic relationships or interactions such as gestures of kindness or acts of solidarity. These acts can be transformative by providing homeless individuals with social support, enhancing the well-being of those experiencing homelessness. Centralized in my project, I gained a new perspective of how root causes for homelessness are, when seen under disaster, programs have fallen through. To circle back to my hypothesis, I have found that Hawaii's homeless population has been a long-standing issue, only exacerbated by the pandemic. And I hope this project aims to create a safety net and a better economy for those living in Hawaii when faced with further dilemmas or further pandemics or problems. Some possible solutions I see conducting, going further in the future, would be from a macro level, expanding programs like the Institute of Health Services. From a meso level, encourage resource sharing and allocation. And from a micro level, support and expand food distribution programs and create transitional housing options.